The early history of Siberia is greatly influenced by the sophisticated nomadic civilizations of the Scythians on the west of the Ural Mountains and Xiongnu on the east of the Urals, both flourishing before the Christian era. The steppes of Siberia saw a succession of nomadic people, including the Khitan people, various Turkic peoples, and the Mongol Empire. In the late Middle Ages, Tibetan Buddhism spread into the areas south of Lake Baikal. A milestone in the history of the region was the arrival of the Russians in the 16th and 17th centuries. Contemporaneous and in many regards analogous to the European colonization of the Americas. During the Russian Empire, Siberia was an agricultural province and served as a place of exile, among others for Avakim, Dostoevsky, and the Decembrists. The 19th century witnessed the construction of the Trans-Siberian Railway, industrialization and the discovery of vast reserves of Siberian mineral resources. Prehistory and Antiquity. According to the field of genetic genealogy, people first resided in Siberia by 45,000 BC and spread out east and west to populate the Americas and Europe. According to Vasiliy, among the earliest inhabitants of central Siberia were the Yeniseians, who spoke a language different from the later Uralic and Turkic peoples. The Kets are considered the last remainder of this early migration. The shores of all Siberian lakes which filled the depressions during the lacustrine period abound in remains dating from the Neolithic age. Countless kurgans, furnaces, and other archaeological artifacts bear witness to a dense population. In fact, some of the earliest artifacts found in Central Asia derived from Siberia. The Yeniseians were followed by the Uralic Samoyedes, who came from the northern Ural region. Some traces of them, like the Selkup, remain in the Sion region. They are credited with leaving behind the very numerous remains dating from the Bronze Age which are scattered all over southern Siberia. Iron was unknown to them, but they excelled in bronze, silver, and gold work. Their bronze ornaments and implements, often polished, evince considerable artistic taste, and their irrigated fields covered wide areas in the fertile tracts. Indo-Iranian influences in southwestern Siberia can be dated as far back as the 2300–1000 BCE Andronovo culture. Between the 7th and 3rd centuries BCE, the Indo-Iranian Scythians flourished in the Altai region. They were a major influence on all later steppe empires. As early as the first millennium BCE, silk goods began turning up in Siberia, having traveled over the Silk Road. The establishment of the Xiongnu Empire in the 3rd century BCE started a series of population movements. Many peoples were probably driven to the northern borders of the Great Central Siberian Plateau. Turkic peoples like the Yenisei Kyrgyz had already been present in the Sion region. Various Turkic tribes such as the Khakas and Uygher migrated northwestwards from their former seats and subdued the Ugric peoples. These new invaders likewise left numerous traces of their stay, and two different periods may be easily distinguished in their remains. They were acquainted with iron, and learned from their subjects the art of bronze casting, which they used for decorative purposes only, and to which they gave a still higher artistic stamp. Their pottery is more artistic and of a higher quality than that of the Bronze Age, and their ornaments are included in the collections at the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg. Middle Ages. Mongol conquest. The Mongols had long maintained relations with the peoples of the Siberian forest. They called him Noin-Urged. Many of them, such as the Baga and Uriankhai, were little different from the Mongols. While the tribes around Lake Baikal were Mongol-speaking, those to the west spoke Turkic, Samoyedic, or Yeniseian languages. By 1206, Genghis Khan had conquered all Mongol and Turkic tribes in Mongolia and southern Siberia. In 1207, his eldest son Jochi subjugated the Siberian forest people, the Uriankhai, the Oirats, Baga, Khakas, Buryats, Tuvans, Koritumd, and Kyrgyz. He then organized the Siberians into three tumans. Genghis Khan gave the Telengat and Tolis along the Irtysh River to an old companion, Korcha, while the Baga, Tumd, Buryats, Kori, Keshmiti, and Bashkirs were organized in separate thousands. The Telengat, Tolis, Oirats and Yenisei Kyrgyz were numbered as Tumans. Genghis settled a colony of Chinese craftsmen and farmers at Kemkemchik after the first phase of the Mongol conquest of the Jin dynasty. The Great Khans favored Falcons, furs, women and Kyrgyz horses for tribute. Western Siberia came under the Golden Horde. The descendants of Orda Khan, the eldest son of Jochi, directly ruled the area. In the swamps of western Siberia, dog sledge stations were set up to facilitate collection of tribute. In 1270, Kublai Khan sent a Chinese official, with a new batch of colonists, to serve as judge of the Kyrgyz and Tuvan basin areas. Oged's grandson Kaidu occupied portions of central Siberia from 1275 on. The Yuan dynasty army under Kublai's Kipchak general Tuturi occupied the Kyrgyz lands in 1293. From then on, the Yuan dynasty controlled large portions of central and eastern Siberia. Novgorod and Muscovy. As early as the 11th century, the Novgorodians had occasionally penetrated into Siberia. In the 14th century, the Novgorodians explored the Kara Sea and the West Siberian River Ob. After the fall of the Novgorod Republic, its communications between northern Russia and Siberia were inherited by the Grand Duchy of Moscow. On May 9, 1483, the Moscow troops of Princes Fyodor Kurbsky, Cherny and Ivan Soltykh-Travin moved to West Siberia. The troops moved on the rivers Tavda, Tura, Irtysh, up to the river Ob. In 1499, Muscovites and Novgorodians skied to West Siberia, up to the river Ob, and subdued some local tribes. Khanate of Siberia. With the breakup of the Golden Horde late in the 14th century, the Khanate of Siberia was founded with its center at Tyumen. The non-Borjigin Buford dynasty vied for rule with the descendants of Shiban, a son of Jochi. In the beginning of the 16th century, Tatar fugitives from Turkestan subdued the loosely associated tribes inhabiting the lowlands to the east of the Ural Mountains. Agriculturists, Tarnas, merchants, and mullahs were brought from Turkestan, and small principalities sprang up on the Irtysh and the Ob. These were united by Khan Yadigar Mohammad of Kazan. Conflicts with the Russians, who were then colonizing the Urals, brought him into collision with Muscovy. Khan Yadigar's envoys came to Moscow in 1555 and consented to a yearly tribute of 1,000 sables. Yermak and the Cossacks. In the mid-16th century, the Tsardom of Russia conquered the Tatar Khanate of Kazan and Astrakhan, thus annexing the entire Volga region and making the way to the Ural Mountains open. The colonization of the new easternmost lands of Russia and further onslaught eastward was led by the rich merchants Stroganovs. Tsar Ivan IV granted large estates near the Urals as well as tax privileges to Anikei Stroganov, who organized large-scale migration to these lands. Stroganovs developed farming, hunting, salt works, fishing, and ore mining on the Urals and established trade with Siberian tribes. In the 1570s, the entrepreneur Semen Stroganov and other sons of Anikei Stroganov enlisted many Cossacks for protection of the Ural settlements against attacks by the Tatars of the Siberian Khanate. Led by Khan Kuchum, Stroganov suggested to their chief Yermak, hired in 1577, to conquer the Khanate of Siberia, promising to help him with supplies of food and arms. In 1581, Yermak began his voyage into the depths of Siberia with a band of 1,636 men, following the Tagil and Tura rivers. The following year they were on the Tobol, and 500 men successfully laid siege to Kashlik, the residence of Khan Kuchum, near what is now Tobolsk. After a few victories over the Khan's army, Yermak's people defeated the main forces of Kuchum on Irtysh River after a three-day battle of Chuvish Cape in 1582. The remains of the Khan's army retreated to the steppes, abandoning his domains to Yermak, who, according to tradition, By presenting Siberia to Tsar Ivan IV achieved his own restoration to favor. Kuchum still was strong and suddenly attacked Yermak in 1585 in the dead of night, killing most of his people. Yermak was wounded and tried to swim across the Wagay River, but drowned under the weight of his own chainmail. Yermak's Cossacks had to withdraw from Siberia completely, but every year new bands of hunters and adventurers, supported by Moscow, poured into the country. Thanks to Yermak's having explored all the main river routes in West Siberia, Russians successfully reclaimed all Yermak's conquests just several years later.